I'm going to show you how to get a ton of ideas where you're just dealing with two notes. And remember, we take the last note as our target note. And again, we use this concept of a melodic pattern. It's a chord scale where you move the idea through the scale. If you're not clear on that, let's just briefly review something. Earlier on, we talked about using the upper neighbor and coming down to a target note. Now there we're going flat 3, 1, C to A, and then we move it through the scale. Now notice how I'm changing position so that I can utilize the pull-off. That way I have the same articulation. Okay? And by the way, a fingering thing, I haven't talked about this much. Robin Ford, the great blues player, and a lot of other guys, sometimes will play the 2-fret interval but use their 4th finger instead of their 3rd finger. They'll even do vibrato with a hand. It's just your hands are more of a fist. So, you know, don't just stick with one thing. Try some different fingerings. All right, so that pattern is just using adjacent notes in the scale. In the previous segment, I talked about finger rolls, and I said if we do finger rolls, we're using every other note in the scale. Well, let's take this concept of we can play around with the interval of our principal note and the neighbor tone. Pick a note. Let's say this A is what we're going to use as our target note. Now this is a great exercise. What's 6 times 2? It's 12. We have 12 notes available to us right here anytime we have a pentatonic scale. 12 minus 1 is 11. So I've got 11 notes that I can choose from as a pickup note. And then my last note is that A. So that means I can go like this. You see, now I did that kind of quickly. I'd like to talk briefly about fingerings because some of those things are quite angular, but I love that kind of stuff because if you listen to a sax player, they'll be playing a line and all of a sudden they'll drop down. It's called octave displacement, or they'll drop up an octave, go up an octave. That's a great way to create new ideas. So if we're coming down, that's typical. That's not bad, and then that's not bad. Now right here we have a problem. If I do a finger roll, I'm trying to do a vibrato with my finger flat, that's not going to work. So you change your fingering. Perhaps you might finger it 1 and then 2. Notice how I just use a dampening bar, just kind of scoot out of the way. Okay, then I go here. Now I could use my 3rd and my 2nd fingers. I could use my 3rd and my 1st fingers. This also requires some right hand dampening. I'm not going to cover it right now. Next segment we'll do that briefly. Okay, now I might use a crossed fingering to play the C and up the A, but that's kind of weird, so I might choose another fingering. See how do you explore all these fingers? There I might bring my 4th finger into play. And see that dampening bar in there, and then finally, so a lot of different things you could do. Now look at that. I just got 11 licks by looking at my pentatonic scale, right? Now figure this out. I just chose one note out of my 12. I've got 11 more possibilities, and each one of those yields 11 licks. Let's say I choose to make the C my target note. So now I go, see the fingering I have to use? Because if I could hop, I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, but explore these other fingerings. Now you saw me switch to the little finger. I said we're going to stay with a traditional approach. Well, I deviated from the norm there. But it's because these are more angular licks. Okay, and you finish with a nice vibrato. It goes on and on and on. Now there we were working up on the higher strings. What if your target note was on the A down here? So then you have... You get the idea. So there's a wealth of ideas right there, just picking that one note as a target and looking at any of the other notes as options. Now it really gets huge and multiplies when you start putting a 3-note lick together. I'm going to do that later on, but in the next segment we'll be talking about right hand. We're going to talk about staccato. We've already briefly discovered that. Muting and raking, and also some different approaches on the technique of how to play with the right hand to get a Texas blues sound, to get a smoother sound, all those different things. Because remember, the left hand is the athlete, the right hand is the artist.